Hello and welcome to episode 175 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is February 27th, 2023. Today I'm wearing two fairly old pieces. The scarf is from 2013 to 2015, so I took a really long time just crocheting 5 granny squares. I don't know why it took that long. Maybe it was because I was collecting the colors, I don't remember. But I used 5 different balls of Rigato yarn. That's a German yarn. It's half wool, half acrylic. And this is the second scarf that I've crocheted that way. And when I crocheted the first one, I experimented how many rounds I could do with one 50-gram ball of yarn. And this is the size that I came up with. And the first scarf has green, blue and gray colors. And I liked it a lot, but I thought it'd be fun to crochet 4 scarves and sew them together. And then I'd have a blanket. But after I finished the second scarf, I realized I enjoy wearing the scarf so much I didn't want to sew them together. And I never crocheted the other 2 scarves anyway. So I just have the 2 scarves and I like them. So that's a scarf. And the cardigan I'm wearing is one of my Noro cardigans. And I used a pattern that was written for this yarn. But for some reason, my gauge was completely off, which meant the cardigan ended up being a lot wider than I had planned, which is why I made it a lot longer than the pattern calls for. And because the cardigan ended up being so wide and long, I decided to do long sleeves, even though they were supposed to be short sleeves, which is why they are quite wide down here, because this was supposed to be the whole sleeve. And then for the yoke, the pattern had you knit 5 different pieces and sew them together, which would have resulted in the colors getting more mixed up, which is something you can do if you like. But I thought there are so many colors already in the cardigan. I wanted the yoke to be more, cohesive in their colors, and I decided to do it in one go. And also I wasn't too keen on sewing the pieces together. So yeah, I just decided to do a simple raglan yoke with a v-neck, and I'm very happy with how the cardigan came out and I love wearing it. By the way, I knitted from October 2015 to December 2016, so it took me more than a year to knit the cardigan. But I keep saying no matter how long it takes you to knit something or crochet something, you can wear it for so much longer than it took you to make it. So it's always worth putting the effort in. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects and I have 3 new cast-ons, so I have to finish a few more things. The first finished object are the Annegret socks, the plain vanilla socks that I started knitting. So I had something that I could knit in the dark when I was in the car during the night and I wanted to have something to knit. So I started these socks, and they are a perfect project for just knitting when I want to concentrate on something else. And when I knit the first sock, I decided it'd be fun to have a red toe, just to mix it up a little bit. And then last week I was knitting the second sock and I was nearing the end and I didn't have the first sock with me. I didn't have the red yarn with me. So I just finished the sock, and only after it was finished I remembered that I had done a red toe for the first sock. So now these socks are even more different than I usually knit them. So the stripes are in different places, which is something that I really like. And they have different toes, which I don't usually do, but I sometimes do. And this time it wasn't intentional at all. But I'm still happy with them. I'm looking forward to wearing them. And I will have to cast on a new project that I can knit without looking. The yarn is opal sock yarn. It was one of the subscription colors, and I don't think it came out in a series yet. So it probably won't. or maybe later this year. We'll see. For now, it's a one-of-a-kind color. Okay, and the next finished object is another pair of socks. It's also a new cast on because I cast it on after I did the last proper podcast, but it's also a finished object. And these are the qualification socks for the Sock Madness. So Sock Madness has officially started, and the pattern for the qualifying socks were designed by a German designer. They were designed by Annette, who is the Nerd Knits on YouTube. And the pattern is called Leicht, which means light as in little weight. And this is what they look like. And I think it's a very beautiful motif. And the interesting and the complicated thing in the socks is that this is knit as intarsia in the round. So I knew theoretically that it was possible to knit intarsia in the round. I had never done it before, so that was something new. And I remember when I read the that you needed, or that you could, it said you needed 34 scraps of yarn in different colors. And that sounded like a whole lot. And I was really interested to see what they were going to make with it. But these are for the balloons. You don't have to use 34 different colors. You can use 17 different colors and then have the same colors in both socks. That's basically what I did. Just change it up. I changed up the spots where the colors are. And in one of the socks, one color, this color, I used this color twice. And I think it's not in this sock, whatever. Most of the balloons are different, and I used solid color yarns. I used self-striping or hand-dyed yarn, so lots of different things. And one of the good things about the Sock Madness is that you don't have to weave in your ends to take the pictures. And even though we had to take inside-out pictures, as long as the intarsia bits were visible, you didn't have to have the ends woven in. So what I did is I put the ends to the side like this. You can see the pictures on my Ravelry page, because you never send in pictures. You just send the link to your Ravelry page, and that's where all the pictures are that the moderators look at. And I qualified, by the way. I sent my email this morning, and 20 minutes later I had the confirmation that I qualified to be put on a team. So this is the girl from the inside, and you can see there are lots of blue ends as well, because every time there's a little blue in between some green, you have to have a new little bit of yarn in the main color. So this is really crazy. I have loads and loads and loads and loads of ends to weave in, but I can take my time now that I've qualified, and I don't have to do it quickly. Yeah, so these are my finished objects. On to works in progress, and I continue with the socks. The Fairgrounds Socks is a pattern that I test knit for Deb Milstein. I gave her my feedback once I finished the first sock, and then I'm now taking my time with the second sock, so I just continued knitting a little bit. I think the pattern is due to be published next week, so if you are interested, there's a link, or the link on my project page will go active as soon as the pattern is published, and then you can find the pattern and get it for yourself if you want to. These are fairly simple shorty socks, but they have a bit of they have some short rows over the heel, which makes them sit nicely, and just a very simple eyelet pattern that gives them just a little bit of interest. And yeah, my sister is looking forward to getting these socks as soon as I finish them. And the other pair of socks are for my nephew, and that was a new cast on last week. And I at least managed to finish the first sock. So that's another pair of film reel socks. I'm still using the Cats and Dogs colorway by Opal, and I started the second sock. It's not a lot there yet, but you can see that again the color sequence is in a different place in the second pair of socks. And also with this pair of film reel socks, I decided to cut the colors every time there was a new stripe, which I didn't do with the first 3 pairs that I've knit. So this is already pair number 4. And my goal was to weave in the ends every time I finish one of those film reels. And of course I didn't do that. So I have woven in all the ends of the first 2 film reels and the heel, but all the rest is still hanging there. I was more interested in continuing knitting, and I didn't take the time to weave in the ends. Yeah, but I will at some point. I hope to finish the second sock this week because the birthday is tomorrow, so they should be finished tomorrow. I won't be able to manage that, but if I can finish them this week, I can show them to you next Monday, and then I can give them to my nephew who's already waiting for them. That's all the socks I am knitting at the moment. Can't start too many socks now that the sock madness has started, and I don't know when the next pattern is going to drop. But I am also knitting another opal subscription color. That's the current pattern battle, and I'm taking part with the Pay It Forward mitts by Jori Locatelli. It's a free pattern. The pattern is for normal mitts, but I decided to do fingerless mitts because that's what my friend wanted to have, who's going to get these mitts. There's pattern on the back of the hand, but not on the palm of the hand. And this is a really long pattern repeat, as you can see. So from here to all the way up here, it just keeps changing. So the second mitt started with these colors. And they're going to be quite different, but that's what my friend likes, so that's okay. And I just added a few rounds of the pattern. Not too much happened since last week, but that was one of the projects that stayed at home and didn't come with me during the holiday, so not too much got done on those. The same is true for the dinosaur skeleton loop scarf that I'm knitting. I added a few rows to this double knitting project before I went on holiday. So I think last week I just had the legs and the tail, and now there's a bit of the body, and I think these are the hands or the arms of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And maybe I can get the square finished this week. I would really like that. So now we come to a project that has seen a little more work, it's not too much to look at, but it still was a lot of work. That's the Noro cardigan I am knitting. I'm using the Silk Garden Solo yarn that my sister gave to me years and years and years ago. And I'm knitting from a Noro magazine that has this cardigan in the magazine, but in the pattern all the pieces are knit separately and everything is sewn together. I decided to knit the sleeves in the round and stop when I got to the underarm, and then I cast on both fronts and the back at the same time, and this is what I did a lot of work on during the holidays. I think when I left I only had like 2 pattern repeats, and I added another 4. So as I said, it doesn't look like a lot, but as there are quite a few stitches, it was quite a bit of work, and I'm really happy that this is growing. This is where the first 50-gram ball of yarn was ended. So this is how much I can knit with one 50-gram ball of yarn. It's not a lot, but then I'm not very tall. So even though I only have 10 balls of yarn, I'm pretty sure it should make a nice cardigan. So that's one of the garments I'm knitting at the moment, and the other garment is another project I did not take with me on holiday because it's just sort of too big a project, but I put in quite a bit of work before I left because I really enjoyed working on this, and that's the stranded colorwork pullover I'm knitting. And with that as well, I started with the sleeves, so they've been done for quite some time. And then I started with the yoke, and I cast the yoke on with a provisional cast on and knitted up upwards the way the pattern calls for, and I'm almost finished with the yoke. So I started with 2 different colors that you can hardly see, but then the red came in, and then for quite a bit I used 3 colors, and then here there's only 2 colors used. That's where the pattern is most clearly, you can see the pattern most clearly. And now there's only 1 little bit of pattern left, and I stopped knitting there because I'm thinking of putting in some short rows at this point, and then add the last bit of pattern. And then in the pattern it says to cast off the stitches, but I want to have a bit of ribbing. And by the way, the size looks really good. Might be a bit oversized, but not as huge as I first thought it would be. Yeah, so I'm thinking of doing short rows, then add the last bit of color work, and then do some sort of ribbing. I might do just a little bit of ribbing, or I might even do a turtleneck, as this is going to be a really warm pullover. That's something that I think I might like. We'll see. I will first do the short rows and the last bit of color work, and then I will try it on, and then depending on how it sits and how many stitches I want to decrease and so on and so forth, I can decide how long I want the ribbing to be. Okay, that's the garments I'm knitting, and then there are 2 more pullovers that I really want to cast on and that I've been thinking about for weeks and weeks now. But instead of starting those, I cast on 2 shawls. So sometimes life's a bit crazy, but that's what I did. And I'm not knitting them by myself. Oh, by the way, they're both Stephen West shawls, and I hadn't planned on knitting 2 Stephen West shawls at the same time, but it just happened that one pattern I came across and I wanted to knit, and then the other pattern a friend of mine found, and she said, why don't we knit that together? And so now the first shawl that I'm going to show you, Pierre, my sister and I were doing like a tiny knit along, and then the other shawl I'm knitting together with my sister. So yeah, Stephen West. The shawl Pierre is a shawl that has different. I keep forgetting how to call these patterns that I have knits and pearls. I know the word, but I can never remember. Anyway, it calls for 4 different colors. And but I decided to use 2 colors because I have wanted to knit a shawl with these 2 colors ever since I bought the yarn. This is Wolldackel yarn, a German hand dyer, and this is on their DK base, and that's a base that they are discontinuing. So if you want some, you have to get it quickly. I ordered these 2 colors because I both like them. I chose them separately, but when they arrived here, I realized these are exactly the same colors, so it'd be great to combine them. And I've been looking for a pattern to use those 2 colors with, but I could never find anything. And when my friend told me that that was a DK weight pattern, I thought that's it. So I wound those 2 colors, and I started with the light one, and this is what I have knit so far. So you start off with this sort of ribbed tab, and then there's the first bit is in garter stitch, then there's this, oh that's the wrong side, this is a twisted rib stitch pattern thingy, and then there's this triangle bit where you have triangles in stockinette and reverse stockinette, and these rib stitches, they just run along the upper side of the like half round shawl, and I really like it. It's so squishy and it knits up fairly fast because I'm using a 5mm needle, and it's amazing how much quicker DK weight is compared to fingering weight. And I'm now at the point where you are supposed to mix color 1 and 2. And at first I wanted to use the light color for colors 1 and 2 and the dark for color 3 and 4. But now I've decided I want to do the mixing of the colors with both my colors. But then for color 2, I will continue with the light one. And then when colors 2 and 3 are mixed, I'm going to mix again. And then colors 3 and 4, I'm going to use the dark color. So I'm really looking forward to adding in the second color and see how they look together. So that's shawl number 1. And shawl number 2, I think, is the newest pattern by Stephen West at the moment. It's the Fragmentation shawl. And it's not just well, you can buy it as a single shawl pattern, but it's also part of an ebook. And I bought the whole ebook. So there might be more colorful Stephen West shawls in my future. We'll see. But this shawl calls for 7 different colors, which I'm not using. I decided to just go for one opal sock yarn color, but one that has fairly clear stripes. So there are 3 colors in this colorway that make rather distinct stripes. And this colorway is part of the Beauty series of this year. And I just wanted to quickly show you the other colors in the series. And I didn't bring the ball band of that color, but with this, you can see that there are very clear stripes that are, I thought they are about the same size, but they look a bit different in this colorway. But anyway, so this is another colorway. Then there are 2 colorways that are a bit pale. And then the last color is this one. And this was also in one of the opal subscription boxes. So I already have 1 ball of this color, and I've always thought about knitting a shawl out of the Knit Happy with Self-Striping yarn book, because it is self-striping, even though it has those small stripes in between the big stripes. But I thought this kind of yarn would be perfect to knit the Fragmentation shawl without having to cut the yarn all the time. And instead of having 7 different colors, I have basically 3 main colors and a few contrast colors, so to speak. But anyway, this is what the shawl looks like. And you start off with this middle thingy, and then you just use a few of those stitches and you knit the first wedge, and then you knit the second one and the third and fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh. But of course, as it's Stephen West, you don't have to sew anything together, but whenever you knit another wedge, you will always knit it together with the one before. So they are knitted on the way he does. And my plan is, when I start the second wedge, I'm going to start at a different point of the color repeat. So, which is why I specifically chose to start with this color, and then I can sort of switch at which point I start the wedges, and then I should get sort of the same effect that he got with his 7 different colors. Really excited to see how this works out. The theory seems very clear, and I hope it really works out that way. My sister is using another opal sock yarn, but she's using one of, I think she's using the cats and dogs colorway, isn't she? So it's of course not the yellow. She would never knit a yellow shawl. But what I'm trying to show is that here also you have stripes that are sort of distinct from each other, but not quite as clear as with my yarn. And it's sort of all in the same color. So she has like light pink and dark pink going into purple stripes. And she will also start the next wedge in a different place of the color repeat. So I'm really looking forward to how this is going to look. And so I'm pretty sure that in December, when we do another sister video, you will be able to see both shawls. At the moment, we're really knitting a lot of things sort of together. And if we keep doing that, maybe we can do more than one sister video per year. We'll see about that. Yeah, but that's the Fragmentation shawl by Stephen West. And it's not the second new cast on, it's the third new cast on really, because the Sock Madness socks were the first new cast on, and then 2 shawls. Quite a lot, but I really enjoy all the projects. Yeah, so I come I think I've shown you most of the things now. Yeah, only the 2 crochet projects left. The first crochet project is the Elements of Life crochet along, and that was a new cast on last week, and I just added a few more rounds. I'm still crocheting from the first bit of the pattern, so the crochet along works that way that we get a new bit of pattern every Friday. But by now this earth motif, we have the complete pattern, and we already got the first part of the next motif, which I think is the air pattern, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, so this is one of the projects that does need a bit of concentration, and I need to count stitches. I need to look where to put my crochet hook, so it's nothing that I can do while concentrating on something else. Yeah, but I really like the way this looks and this comes out, and I'm looking forward to having this as a cushion. So I think that's that should be really nice. I'm using this Lana Grossa sock yarn with the very subtle color shift. I think now it's visible. Last time I think it was just all blue, but now there's a bit of green in there, and the blue has changed and has this sort of very little bit of brown in it. Yeah, really happy with it. And then just this light grey contrast color. No idea whether this is going to be enough. If not, I'll have to go yarn hunting. Yeah, and the last project is again my alpaca big granny square, and I think it's quite funny to be wearing this granny square scarf with this really big yarn, and then I'm working on this very thin yarn. So the stitches are so much smaller in this shawl than in the scarf, but then the whole thing is going to be a lot bigger when it's done. And it keeps amazing me how much I love to crochet a granny square. I get really bored when I knit stockinette stitch or garter stitch without anything else, without color change or anything else. But with a granny square, I seem to never get bored. I have no idea why that is. Yeah, I added just, I think, 6 rounds or 5. They are getting longer. I'm really, really enjoying how the colors shine next to the black. It's such a difference to what the same colors look like in the middle of the square. But yeah, really very happy with this very soft and very colorful square, which is going to be a triangular shawl when it's done. Double layer one. Yeah, so that's everything I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!